It's time for Talkward, Cringeworthy Tales. And now, your host, weekly humorist, editor-in-chief, Marty Dundix.
Hi, and welcome to Talkward. I'm Marty Dundix, editor-in-chief of Weekly Humorist Magazine, and this is Talkward, a fun little podcast where professionally funny people come to tell awkward and cringeworthy stories. I'm very excited about today's guest. He is a very funny comedy writer and author, and I don't know. I mean, we're going to find out even more things about this mysterious comedy author because he's got a lot of stories to tell, and I'm excited to hear all about them. Please welcome to Talkward, Mr. Brian Boone, everybody.
Hey.
Brian Boone.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on the show. This is big for me.
This is exciting. Exciting to talk to somebody face to face, even on video, when so much of the comedy writing world is on email, or you're just reading the printed page of someone and you see their byline. And in my comedy business life, my career, I have worked with a lot of comedy writers that I've never actually gotten to meet in person. And you were on that list for a while. At least I never saw your face. You were like this mysterious thing in my head, bro. Brian Boone. People would always talk about Brian Boone. And I talked to Mike Sachs, and he talked about Brian Boone, and all these people were bouncing around Brian Boone. And then I finally get to do something fun with you. I mean, you definitely, you wrote articles for National Lampoon when I was there, and you kind enough to write articles for Weekly Humorist, and you're in the McSweeney's, and you're in all this stuff. And you've written all the books. You've written tons of stuff. So it's been so nice to kind of get to know you slowly during these times. I feel like with comedy people, you like slowly get to know people just by their work coming into you. But it's never like a big conversation. It's always kind of like, here's something for you. And then I write, looks great, we'll take. And you're like, awesome. And then that's our entire conversation for about a year.
But you feel like you still kind of get to know people. Like it's the weirdest thing. Like we've talked on Zoom a couple of times for the book and stuff like that. But I feel like I already knew you. Like just through those limited interactions. It's very maybe comedy writers maybe we're gentle and we need to be slow. We have to slowly emerge.
Yeah.
From our
slowly
cocoons.
Get to know somebody through their work. I don't know anything about this person. Just like how's your day kind of business, but I know them through this hilarious article or this hilarious article or this odd take that someone has on this topic. And that's how I form an opinion on their personality. It's not because I know what they're up to day to day. It's like,
and it's not,
it's a hilarious thing they wrote. That's that person.
And it's not wrong. And you get a pretty good, accurate representation of it. If somebody's a good writer, like their personality comes across in their work, or at least the parts of their personality that they want to come across in their work, and probably some stuff that you don't even know you're putting across in your work. Because, I read, as a writer and reader and editor, you sometimes pick up on a lot of subtext from people. I'm sure
you do. And for a long time, and maybe much earlier on, but you were in the same magazine spread that I was lucky enough to be in, and that was magazine called The Writer magazine. Yeah. And they profiled like Emma Allen and Chris Monks and you.
And me for some reason.
No. You deserve to be there. I was like, they were like, what, they're going to put you in? And other people were like, what the hell are they putting Marty in for? But that's fine. I loved it, and I soaked it up. And at that time, you were being the comedy editor of Splitsider before Splitsider got eaten up by New York Magazine company, Vulture, and all that business. And they still operate, and they still, they live within the other brand. Mm-hmm. But for a long time, Splitsider was independent, right?
Yeah, for I think about 10 years. A couple of people started it, and it was part of the All.
That's right, the All, AWL, yeah.
With a couple of other brands that got swallowed up by Vulture and all that, and they still live at Vulture, but the humor section got cut. They just wanted Splitsider for the comedy vertical, not the
comedy news. It's a lot of comedy podcasts, comedy news features, which is great. It's great to kind of dissect all the. And you still do a lot of stuff for them. You write for the book lists and all that kind of stuff. They do a lot of great things with the podcast, so we need to like nudge, get them to talk about Talkward a little bit more. But that's okay.
Oh yeah, get
We'll get
Jesse
there.
on.
Yeah,
Jesse,
we'll get. Yeah,
Jesse, if you're listening, we would both like to be guests.
Have us all on. We can do a round robin. It'll be great. We can do like around the horn.
That's a small world too. It's like I really like doing this podcast and just kind of branching out a little bit more into this tight knit world of cool people who are funnier than me. So
everybody knows everybody too,
yeah.
Which I've kind of realized. Like I'm in New York, there are a lot of people on the West Coast, but online there's like this kind of pile of writers that everyone seems to kind of know and overlap friends with, and you hear this person and then you read their tweets or you read an article there and you're like, ooh, and maybe you reach out and then they submit something to a humorist or whatever, and then this whole network just builds and builds and builds. A lot of it is through that Second City writing course. I know that Caitlin Kunkel developed a little while ago, and tons of writers have come out of that.
Yeah.
Were you involved with any of that stuff? Did you ever do any of the comedy writing, teaching classes when you were becoming a comedy writer?
No, none of it. I'm out here in the sticks on the West Coast. I think I'm a little bit older than everybody else. But I went to journalism school, and I worked as I still do. I worked as a trivia. I write for a trivia book publishing company, and I always kind of wanted to be a comedy writer, and I would submit things to McSweeney's over the years, and pitched a couple of humor books that never went anywhere, and then I just started going for it more often and started to land some things with all of the people, and landed a couple of things with Splitsider, and then I noticed when the section dropped off that the editor had left, and I asked to take that over because I really liked it, and also that left Splitsider as an option that was off limits to me because I couldn't publish my own stuff. So that made me be like, okay, well, if you can't publish at Splitsider, you're gonna have to branch out and try to get stuff into the New Yorker and McSweeney's and Lampoon, Funny or Die, and all that. And then I just kind of started going for it. Just kind of started pitching to Funny or Die and all those other ones that came and went over the years.
I think I heard about you from Kit Lively. Kit Lively was always like,
oh yeah,
that Brian Boone's so great. That Brian Boone's so funny. Brian Boone's, blah, 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 and he'd always send just ludicrous articles to everywhere and me. And
he
would accept him.
His stuff was insane.
His stuff was insane.
Yeah. He was absolutely one of a kind. Like, I'm just trying to forge out an identity over there, and he was a big part of that just because his stuff was so just outlandish and over the top. Like, occasionally I couldn't publish something because it was just a little bit too profane. Yeah. But, he never it's okay.
There was always someplace else that would take it. It would always either end up with me, or end up at Points and K's, or it'd end up at Robot Butt or something. There's always a new humor site to go to that desperately needs content. So they always some need. So you started writing books. You did the Bathroom Reader. So when you first started writing, you were writing. Was it the jokes for the Bathroom Readers? Now, are the Bathroom Readers trivia books only, or are they also jokes?
It's trivia with some humor kind of laced in. So it's just kind of a light take on trivia, conversational and things like that. But there'd be an occasional joke page, and I was definitely the person on staff who do more of the humorous type stuff. And they let me do a whole book of fake facts once, which is just it's a straight trivia book, played straight, but everything in it is made up and bullshit. And it sold very poorly, but it was deeply, deeply creatively satisfying for me.
Everything in this book is absolutely fake. You had to put that, I'm sure, on every page.
That was the back cover copy. Yeah. Everything in this book is, I think it was everything in this book is true except for everything that isn't, which is all of it. So they let me write so they let me write a couple of funny-ish books that were trivia books too. But it definitely gave me a taste and allowed me to scratch that itch before I started writing my own stuff.
So then you started writing your own stuff. What was the first book
Yep.
you wrote that was 100% your own idea and brand?
It was called I Love Rock and Roll Except When I Hate It. And it was kind of in that bathroom reader vein where it was all music trivia, but with like a lot of asides and like, jokingly selected topics like, 8 times Oasis ripped off the Beatles, or, the intro is pretty much all about why the Eagles are garbage.
And were any of these things true? Did you find
yeah,
places
no,
where they
it's
ripped
all
off
true.
Okay.
No, it's all true. It was a totally true trivia book, just with asides and jokes in it, because I feel like that's when you talk about music with your friends, you'll praise the bands that you like, and you'll make fun of the bands that you hate.
So do you know everything at this point? Would you just kill it on Jeopardy? Like, have you been on Jeopardy?
I was on Jeopardy.
You were on Jeopardy.
Yeah.
When were you on Jeopardy?
I was on Jeopardy in 2009, and I went into it thinking that I've got it made. I'm a trivia book writer. I'm a ringer. They shouldn't even allow me on the show, and all that. Like it's like my second time that I tried in and I got in, and it's this whole lengthy audition process. You go in, and I went up to a hotel ballroom in Portland, a few hours from here, and you do like a mock version of the game, and then you do an interview with the producers just to see if you're good TV, if you're funny and casual and not going to freeze up on TV, and if you know a little something. And so I did that. I aced the test. I aced the audition. I aced the other test, and then they put me on, and it looked good. Like the first round, it was like Cliff Clavin when he goes on Jeopardy on Cheers,
Yep.
and all the categories are like things he's an expert on. Like like I just written the music trivia book, and one of the categories was album of the year winners at the Grammys, and then there was like a sushi one, and it was presidential trivia. It was all like the stuff that I knew really well, and I
There was a
ran the
category
board in the
that
first
said
round.
stuff Brian Boone knows. I'll take that
Yeah,
category for 1,000.
It seemed so fated, and I got so like I was just in the swing of the game. Like I was sick and nervous to death all day. Like I'm diabetic. My blood sugars were like through the roof. I like told somebody like, "Hey, look, if I pass out on stage, it's because I have diabetes. It's fine." So I go out there. I'm just in a fever, and I'm just acing. I'm just running the board, like getting ringing into every single question, getting them right. And then I got the daily double, and I blew it. And then I just completely lost my mojo.
You were out.
There was an audible
House of
gasp
Cards.
from the audience.
Really?
Audible gasp from the audience. You look out there, and you can just see my wife was in the audience, and you can just see she felt so bad for me, and just like an audible gasp when I think I bet everything. I had like $10,000 in there. I'm like, I'm going to bet it all, Alex. I'm going to make this a true daily double. Oh, I see, he says in his clipped, condescending Canadian accent. So I bet it all. And it was like, it was basically like, what president spent a lot of time in Paris before he was president? It's Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
I knew that. Everybody knows that. But I think I said, James Monroe. I just froze in the moment. So I blew it. I blew all the money. They go to commercial. One of the producers comes over. They have all these producers on the side, like trying to like keep everybody, pepped up and perky or everything. They're basically trivia fluffers.
Yeah.
And she just like, okay, it's like, you're not out yet. You're not out yet. It's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Hey, tell me a personal story about yourself, blah, blah, blah. So I did. And then I get back in, and then the second round, I pick back up a little bit. I start getting more. I get the next daily double. I blow that one too. I pick myself back up. I get more questions right. Start to get some more money going. Get the daily double again. Oh no. Blow it again. The only 3 questions I missed were all daily doubles, on which I just bet everything. Because at that point, I'm just like, screw it. I'm not going to win anyway. And then, like, as much as I thought it was like fated that I was going to win in the first round, in the second round, it became abundantly clear that the lady next to me was supposed to win. Like, she'd been talking before the show about, like, you know, it was her son's senior year. He was about to go to college. He'd gotten into college and he was like a really good student, but they couldn't afford college. And because she worked at a Renaissance fair, she was like a classics major and worked at a Renaissance fair. And then, like, one of the categories in the second round was the Tudors, that Showtime show. It was like that branded content.
I'll take Renaissance fairs for 1,000.
Exactly. She got so excited. She was like, oh, and she ran through the category, got the round of applause. And
Turkey
so
legs
won.
for 2,000. No.
Exactly. So she won.
Gestures.
And she was fated to win, and she did. The final Jeopardy question was, again, like something I would have known. It was a question about the Flintstones. It was like TV trivia, like, what TV character was born on, you know, in 1955, but really 1955 BC or some shit.
James Monroe.
James Monroe. I should have done that. But I was so embarrassed at that point, because, like, but then, like, it doesn't air for months. Like,
oh God, then you have to just, like, relive this horror until it's about to go on TV.
Kept it all secret. Had to keep it all secret, and, like, everybody, and I was just like, well, you'll have to wait and see. Like, it's basically got an NDA. Like, you can't say what happened. So, like, I get some peace with it. I get over it, and then, you know, fly back home. And then, you know, 3 months later it airs, and then just, you know, my spectacular collapse airs on national television. The second it's over, my brother calls me on the phone and sings the Weird Al, "You lost on Jeopardy!" baby. And I laughed. But then, like, for weeks after, like, old people would stop me on the street. Because old people are the only people who watch Jeopardy. You know,
you're
like,
a celebrity to them.
Excuse me. I would just get used to hearing, "Excuse me, young man." And I would turn around and there'd be some, you know, 4-foot-tall old lady with pristine white Golden Girls Betty White hair. "You were just so good on the television when we saw you. Young man, I am so proud of you. I would never be able to even get up there and do that. So even though you lost, kudos to you for just having the gumption to get out there and do it."
That's nice.
Nice.
It's like you were. It's like, for younger people, it's like you were on. You're a celebrity, like on American Idol. You were a reality star on Big Brother for no reason.
Yeah.
And all the, people know you from that. But if you go on Jeopardy, you're, like, smart and you're on a game show. But the people that know you are a completely different audience than the rest of, like, the Kardashian watching people.
Yeah. Total niche. I would get recognized, like, at the library and like at Hometown Buffet.
That's a fun niche to be famous with.
The places where old people go.
You have groupies, but they're all in scooters and walkers. And then there's no chasing you. They're not chasing you down.
No,
they're slowly coming towards you.
Excuse me, young man, as they.
Hello, young man. That's great. I always think when I watch people on Jeopardy that it would add some stakes if you bet some money and then you owed them money. You know, like it's like, sorry, Brian, you lost on Jeopardy. You came in negative $52,000. So before you can leave the stage, we do need that as a check or credit card, or we can take a wire. So.
Hold on 1 second. My dog is barking. Hey.
I can hear that. He is enjoying the show. I can tell. If he has any questions. Also, this is streaming live. We have a couple of live viewers. If you have questions for Brian Boone, you can write them in the chat wherever you're watching the show, and we will ask Brian Boone questions. We have people on Twitch, and we have people on Facebook watching this, which is just thrilling.
Facebook.
Yeah. So it might be a lot of your people that saw you on Jeopardy.
Yeah, right.
Those are the people that are on Facebook. Well, that's a great thing. That's exciting that you got to be on Jeopardy. I mean,
it was pretty exciting, and like I mean, it's a great story to tell forever and ever that I was on Jeopardy, and I met Alex Trebek. Yeah. I was on Jeopardy before Alex Trebek died, and he was he was not friendly.
Really?
He wasn't particularly friendly. When all the contestants got there, which we all stayed in a hotel and we all rode a little short bus to the studio.
Did anyone try like psychologically psyching you out?
No, because everybody was nerds.
Yeah.
Like I was the coolest person there, which
Oh, well, that says quite a bit.
that says quite a bit. I should never be the coolest person in a room. They were just weird nerds, and oh my god, like I knew that lady worked at a Ren Fair already, right? So
Yeah.
and that's like kind of the cooler end of being a nerd. So
It
when we
kind
get
of
there,
is. It's kind of badass. I mean, there was wenches, there was horses, there's jousting. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's a niche cool. It's like not really cool, but like it was kind of hip in that weird. I mean, I grew up in Maryland, and the Maryland Renaissance Festival was huge. Like huge. There's people who were nailing nails with a hammer in their face. This guy named Johnny Fox, he was famous. He just died. Not from nails in his face, oddly enough.
huh?
But it was fun. I used to love it. They would do abbreviated Shakespeare. People love Shakespeare, right? Cool people like Shakespeare.
I've been to a couple of those. They're fun if it's not too hot.
Exactly.
But yeah, so Trebek was we came in and they told us now Trebek might be a little weird. He had a bit of a jackhammer accident working on his property over the weekend, so he's not feeling too well, which is code for dude's maybe a little hazy on medication. But
don't look at him directly in the eyes, and don't come towards him quickly with any hands or motions.
He will hit you with his jackhammer.
Yeah.
Which is also known as a Canadian chainsaw. He but they have to keep him like at a completely different part of the set than everybody else because of the old quiz show tampering rules. So you don't see him until he comes out on the stage. Like when the announcer says, "And now Alex Trebek." And by the way, the announcer was like maybe 100 years old, and he was wearing like his satin Jeopardy crew jacket.
That's great.
Adorable. So Trebek comes in, and then we meet him and everything. And then the only other time you really talk to him is at the end of the show when you're standing there as the credits roll and he's talking to the contestants. The second the credits stop rolling, he hightails it out of there. Like the lady who won was in the middle of a story and he just bolted because like that's part of the rules. That's part of the rules. Like you cannot interact with the contestants at all outside of the game.
That is fascinating. And all of the old quiz show, the 50s and 60s scandals were such an interesting story. And that movie quiz show was such a fantastic movie. It's so interesting. And your headphones remind me of those old-timey headphones from quiz show. Just give me the questions. I'll come up with the answers. Okay, give me the answers. It's just faster that way. I'm going to go do the Today Show with a chimp.
Yeah, I mean, TV was so extremely corrupt at the time. But
so much more fun.
The only messages from that is like wrestling. Like that's the only thing that's not totally faked. Because there's so many laws in play. There are more laws in place over game shows than there are like food safety handling. Like
I believe that. Definitely. That's interesting. I love it. That could be a great book too. You should write a book about game shows.
Oh yeah. That'd be a fun book.
That could be a good humorist book's next book.
Hey, yeah.
This one we will talk about. This is the book you have out now, and I'll put this up for people who are watching this. If you're listening to this, if you were watching it, you'd see a gorgeous book cover of How to Be an Old Person by Brian Boone. Everything to know for the newly old, retiring, elderly, or considering by Brian Boone.
Who'd you get to design that cover there, Marty?
I couldn't find anybody who was cheap enough, so I had to do it myself. That's usually how it goes at humorous books. And the entire interior, it's a very funny book. It's broken up into it's a great gift book. My parents each have a copy. They thought it was very amusing. I have a great photo of my mom reading this book, and she's got, she's up there in age, and she's got like, old lady rings. So you see her hands holding the book, and she's got all of her, beautiful rings on.
Wow.
I'll send you the photo of my mom reading this book. My dad liked it too. And my dad, who has the same name as me, was kind enough to review the book on Amazon. But we have the same name, so it just looks like me writing, good book.
Nice.
Good book, very funny. It looks like I wrote that.
I didn't. I didn't think that. I thought that was you. But I remember that you have the same name as your dad because we threw his name into a joke book a
Oh,
couple of
that's
years
right.
ago.
How is
Yeah,
that book? Where's that
yeah.
book?
That's called Dad Jokes. It's published by Portable Press, a different publisher. But yeah, we threw his name in there. I needed dad names for the 200 jokes, and you were kind enough to allow me to use your dad's name.
My dad's name is in a joke book by Brian Boone, which I still is that for sale now? Can I buy that book?
You can get that joke. I should send you that book. Don't buy
Is
that
it
book.
is it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Don't buy that book.
Is it called joke? Is it called Dad Jokes?
It's called Dad Jokes.
Okay, Dad Jokes by Brian Boone. And I am on what page? Do you have that remembered? Do you have that saved to memory?
I have no idea. That was
I'm on
more than 2 weeks ago.
I'm on page 285, halfway down, 3/4 of the way.
That sounds good.
And you used his name as Marty, or is it Martin?
I think I did Martin. Yeah.
There you go. That'd be nice for my dad to know.
Well, thank him for the review for me.
I will. And we have
agree.
a live listener, Paul. Paul says, as a newly minted old person, that better not be in small print. That's a very good point, Paul. And the book is in pretty big print. Yeah, it is in pretty big print. It has very big headers, and it has lots of illustrations of old people. They're adorable.
It's large. It's easy to hold. You could get it on your Kindle. Old people love their Kindles.
They have it on the Kindle. There's very cute pictures of old people. I love old people too. I've always connected more with old people. I enjoy hearing stories, and I putter. I'm a putterer.
I'm also a putterer. Yeah.
I feel like you're like me, where I've been an old person since I was a young person. I've always been an old person. I was a old young person, and
absolutely.
Now I'm an old person.
I would love going to my grandma's house. I go for 4 or 5 days in the summer, and we would just do old people stuff. We'd get up at 7 in the morning and eat a piece of whole wheat toast and half a grapefruit, watch a Golden Girls rerun, go for a very, very slow stroll around the neighborhood, eat dinner at 5:30, maybe go see a movie downtown. It was great. I love being old people. They've got it all figured out. They don't have to work anymore. They just kind of do whatever they feel like. They putter in the garden. They mess around the garage.
I enjoy the puttering part of being an old person, and my apartment is full of antiques that were highly influenced by both of my grandparents. Both my grandmothers they had taste that was similar. It was, I call it grandma chic, is what my entire decorating palette is. And I have gotten stuff that is antiques from them, and then things that I have picked up that were similar to stuff I already had. So everything kind of matches this motif of old person. I don't have as much doilies, but I do have some. I do have some doilies, but just not as many as an old person might. But I have, and then all of the key to an old person's house is the table with all of the framed images that are so layered on the table that you can barely see any of the pictures. But there's 17 small framed pictures, and they're all leaning up. And if one falls, it's dominoes. They all just collapse.
You can never dust them because they will all collapse,
and they're covered in dust.
Fall apart, and they will fall apart because they're about 100 years old. Those little curio picture frames made out of real wood that's rotten, featuring a picture of a non-smiling person
from 1890.
Yeah,
this is your great grand uncle. And everyone's just pissed off. Everyone's pissed off in the 1800s. Every photo, they're just for God's sakes, these clothes are tight and uncomfortable. How many buttons does this thing have?
These clothes are tight. I'm wearing 15 layers. I have dysentery.
It was a miserable time, but they got through it. You know what's fun? I like the old times. And something that's been on recently is that Gilded Age. Do you watch the Gilded Age on HBO Max? It's so good.
I haven't yet. My wife and I are saving it. We're going to watch it on Sunday nights. To get us ready for the week.
Appointment
watch
TV.
That on Sunday nights. Have a cup of tea with it because we're old people.
It's great. I love that. I love the Downton Abbey. It's fun. It's like the ceremony of setting the table, or the guy's getting, we have to get the guy ready for the day, so I'm ironing the newspaper. I love that. It's so ridiculous, but I love that they did it just because it was the way it was done.
Yeah, you just keep doing it.
We're so lazy now. It's almost like no one's ironing my newspaper anymore, Brian.
I mean, I got to do it myself, and I got to get up an hour early. Like I actually had to buy a newspaper the other day, and I got to the store early, knowing that the old people get there really, really early, and it was like 7, and they were out of newspapers already because the old people had already bought them.
Ugh. So I have some of the table of contents for your old person book. How to be an old person, the official checklist. Picking out your old person name. Guess who died.
We all
the old
guess who
person
died.
money philosophy. How to swear like an old person. How to hate young persons. Very important. How about this weather we've been having, which is, I fall into so many of these buckets and have for a long time. How to talk like a young person. Casual but deeply held and caustic racism. Very interesting. Just like something about old people, things that they think or say, it's like you don't want an answer a lot of the time. You're like, maybe we're going to skip this topic, Grandma. I don't think now is the time. I want to find out the horrors that you have been burying in your psyche. So that's that's the dark side of being an old person.
They just get racist. Like I went away for college, and then the first weekend I came back home to visit my parents. Maybe gone 3 weeks, a month, something like that. The house had instantly filled with end tables and doilies somehow, and they had gotten just a little bit racist. They'd been very liberal, progressive. They voted for Jesse Jackson in the 80s, and then all of a sudden they were like racist old people. Like
it happens before you know it.
End tables ever with doilies, where I don't even know where you buy doilies. I think they just magically appear when you turn 60.
They do,
and then just very distrustful of
foreign
of all the non-white people in the neighborhood for whom they referred to with words that aren't quite racial epithets, just outdated words that you would use to describe.
You definitely can't say those words anymore. I mean,
of non-white races.
I've definitely heard people who aren't even trying to be racist say words that are now they've just changed. So it's I think a lot more with old people. I have found it isn't as much that they dislike a certain group of people. It's that they're using terminology that is completely outdated, and they haven't gotten the memo.
Yes.
Of the words you can't say now, and it's hard to explain sometimes the reasons why we don't say these words, and it's just like it's a conversation. We're just like, is this even worth it? It is worth it, but you're just like, here's the short version. You can't say this anymore because of this, and this means this. And they're like, okay, they're just like, whatever.
They're averse to change anyway, and it's like I'm not going to tell them that actually you should say African American or LGBTQ instead of the other words that were okay to use in like 1980 that just aren't now.
I have puttering around that. I like the way that the book runs through. There's fashion show around the house. That's entertainment. What's cooking, good looking. And a lot of this in the book is it's stereotypical of an old person who was be like my grandparents who are gone now, but would be in their 90s to 110s about now. So this is a character that's dealt the book, and this old person who is in the zeitgeist of the old person, which isn't the boomer. It's more the 95-year-old.
Yes.
Maybe someone who was in the Great War. It's a bit more old than maybe a parent. It's probably your grandparent, but a little bit older than these young people's grandparents are like pretty young sometimes. You're kind of like, you're a grandparent. You don't count as a grandparent yet in my mind.
You're like 65. You're still working. You still wear you still wear cons. You're you still watch HBO and stuff. Like it's like our grandparents and like 80s 90s era old people, like the boomers' parents, which that generation sort of perfected.
Yeah, the boomers
being
parents.
An old person. Yeah, they perfected being old people. They really established all of the tropes of being old, which a lot of boomers are embracing, and then a lot of boomers are sort of like, no, I'm still cool. I came up in the 60s. I changed the world.
The way television has framed old people is so interesting because the Golden Girls in their first season are the same age as and just like that cast from the rebooted Sex and the City, right? So
wow.
So those two displays of age it's so different when they're trying to say, like, we're trying to make a comedy about old ladies in Florida. We want it to be like this. Now we wanted to make it a slightly more mature women from Sex and the City in New York City and their sexy lives, but they're a little bit older. Let's have it look like this, but they're the same age at the beginning of the show. Isn't that wild?
That's wild. And like Wilford Brimley, the man who invented diabetes and oatmeal, he was
and the diabetes.
Diabetes. He was like 52 when Cocoon came out, and he's playing an old man in Cocoon. Like, just
there's a Twitter account that identifies current celebrities when they turn 52. This is all it does. It's a bot. And all it does is say, I don't know who's 52, who's famous. Let's say Jennifer Aniston. I don't think she's 52. She might be.
I think she is.
Is she 52? So let's say on Jennifer Aniston's birthday, this Twitter bot would say, Jennifer Aniston's 52. She's the same age as Wilford Brimley in Cocoon. And that's all the Twitter bot does. It just identifies someone being 52, and then it says, they're the same age as Wilford Brimley in Cocoon. And it's almost like you dread being Twitter botted by that thing on your birthday.
Absolutely. It's like, I'm not, yeah. The time will come for all of us when we're Wilford Brimley's age. But, being old ain't what it used to be. And people seem to, reject it. And it's like, well, I don't have to do all these old people tropes, but here they are all identified in this book I wrote.
I feel like the number one thing about being old, it's something that I want to make sure that I can do when I'm old, is be somewhere warm. Like, I get the Florida. Yeah, it is smart. It is smart for you to be old in a warm climate.
Yes.
It makes everything better. Your body is a little bit softer because it's a little heated up because of the heat. Everything isn't frozen and brittle. Even in the cold, things break. You get achy. You slip and fall on the ice. Like, there's so many hazards in the winter.
You have conditions like rheumatism and other things that aren't called that anymore.
Exactly.
Your hips acting up. They got malls in Florida where you can go walking. Like, they still have malls in Florida.
It's great. And you have to have a community. I just want to live in a community where I can drive around. My primary mode of transportation to be a golf cart. That's what I've always wanted. I've only just wanted to drive around on a golf cart. I wanted my life to be where I lived in a world where I drive around on a golf cart, very similar to the beach community in Weekend at Bernie's. So everybody had tricked out golf carts in Weekend at Bernie's. If you remember, I think they were on, I think it was Fire Island or something else island. Maybe something, I can't remember. A listener can correct me on Weekend at Bernie's. But I always loved the fact that their primary, and they would drive a golf cart and they would park it in front of like a restaurant, and there was just a row of golf carts.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. It's environmentally friendly if you can charge them someplace good, and I doubt they're getting in very many accidents.
No, I mean, I live in a town where we're easily the youngest people in the neighborhood. Big retirement community. Hey, there you go.
I'm showing for people listening. I actually have a model of a golf cart on my shelf. I don't know where I got this, but I got it, and I was like, "This is what I want my life to be," and it's just a beautiful golf cart.
You probably got that from a dealer who you gave it to.
I was
going there with a gray wig and glasses and a cane, pretend to be old and want to buy a golf cart, and they gave that to you.
Old person stuff is so leisurely. Golf, I'm terrible at golf, but like I'm at the age now, just like going to play golf. Just having the opportunity to stand outside for the day and drive around in a golf cart, it just sounds great.
Walking around, goofing off with your friends, wasting money. It checks a lot of boxes for being an old person. There's a
Social
lot
Security. People just give you money.
They just give you money that you're entitled to, and then you go on the golf course and complain about all the people mooching off the government.
I know. It's so funny.
There's so many old people around here. Like it's a retirement community, and there's also like a golf course nearby. So I get stuck behind golf carts on like the regular roads all the time. And
you get stuck behind golf carts on the regular roads?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you should just get a golf cart, Brian. Just get a golf cart and let the change happen to you. It's already halfway happening. Just let it finish its job.
My local idol is this guy who it's like an enclosed golf cart and it seats one person, and he just very slowly drives it down the sidewalk, just smoking in it the whole time.
Nice.
And he drives it all the way to the grocery store, gets out, finishes smoking a cigarette, gets back in and drives home.
So you live in a world where people are driving around golf carts as their regular cars.
Yes, it's a very warm town. I think healthcare is the number one industry. There's tons and tons of old folks' homes. Like I think the median population here is probably 65. Like it is a very quiet city and a very quiet neighborhood, and it's warm. It's full of golf courses. It's very old people centric. The intro in the book about the old man with the Werther's original.
Mm-hmm.
The man standing in front of me, spending 15 minutes picking out Werther's original. That happened. Like the day I turned in the manuscript, that happened. I was like, this is just perfect. So this town inspired me to write this book as much as my parents did. But yeah, this old man just standing in front of me, taking 15 minutes, does not give a damn that he is, blocking me, and then he takes a big bag of Werther's originals, the official candy of old people.
It is the official candy of old people. It's good, and they can use it if anything is falling out of their mouth denture wise. They can maybe emergency use a Werther's originals to shove in there for a temporary stick.
Holds everything in.
How to be an old person. The official checklist is a list of things here that you have. A great little checklist about how to be an old person. And I think this is funny. And I'm going to go through to see if you remember. Whistle a little tune. Hum a little ditty. Wink at a stranger. Wink. Winking is something that is an old person thing. I do it sometimes, and people are always like, "No, you're not old enough to pull that shit off.
You cannot get away with that.
You wink at me again, you'll be winking no more." Tip your hat, men only. Nod politely, women only. Hitch up your pants, men only. Yawn and say, "Oh my," women only. See, this is gender specific, which you can't do if you're a younger person.
Yep.
Less. Older generation, they're very gender specific. If you're 80 to 90 to 100,
they are very binary. They
might have invented binary. They
absolutely did. They are hesitant to change in anything that is even a little bit different and non-binary. They don't care for.
Chew on a toothpick, clear your throat, cough unapologetically. A lot of that.
A lot of that going on.
I remember
a lot of that going on lately, freaking me out.
One of my grandmothers would always clear her throat, totally not paying attention to it, and she would, and so it would just be we'd be sitting in silence watching television, and then it would just be like, him. We just gotta look over. She wouldn't even. It wasn't even like, "Oh, sorry." It was just like, "What are you looking at me for? Shut up." It's like, I'm breathing. Talk to yourself. Yes. Say, huh. Cup your hand over your ear. Absolutely. Make bones audibly ache. Yeah.
Oh, my bones.
Oh, these bones of mine.
Oh, these old bones of mine.
Lick
these
your
dogs
lips.
Are a-barking.
A lot of licking your lips. Wipe away the weird stuff that
dry.
gathers in the corner of your mouth. Do that. This is a lot of stuff that's like, this should be an identifier. Like, are you an old person? Check off how many of these things you check off. Clean your glasses with your hot breath. I did that earlier. I go, and I wipe my glasses off on my shirt. Fiddle around in your ear with your finger. Absolutely. I dig in there and get some stuff out.
Time tested.
Comment on the weather. Comment. It's like, how many of these things do I do to start a conversation on a dating app? Like 7 so far. How about this weather we're having? That's my big opening line, Brian. That's what I say to people. It doesn't work.
Well, you can't say the thing about aching bones because they'll take that differently. They'll think that's euphemistic, and they're like, no.
I'm gonna get reported.
These dogs are barking.
I know.
These dogs are barking, pretty baby.
My body is literally falling apart. I'm not trying to be sexy in any way. Ask to speak to the manager. I do that on customer support all the time. Flirt with the waitress or bag boy. Hello. Complain about all that racket. Absolutely. Urinate with at least a moderate amount of difficulty. That, some burning. You don't want that. Urinate so freely you don't even realize you're urinating. And last but not least, grumble. Like a very Yosemite Sam. Ready, kids upstairs.
It's the only time I hear swearing from my mother is when she's muttering in the other room.
Young people.
Hell,
and, you know, I felt like one of my biggest old person moments. And when I recently, I had a car parked. I had a car parked. My car is a piece of shit. 2006 GMC Envoy. Not to brag. Got it on eBay during the pandemic. No biggie. Anyway, so I'm waiting. So my car's parked outside, and these kids, these teenagers, are riding their bike. For some reason,
hooligans.
There's tons of space in this parking lot. Brian. And I am overlooking. I'm in this condo, and I am overlooking. I'm looking out the kitchen window, and all I see is my car. There's no other cars around me. There's no other cars. There's tons of open space, and these kids are riding their bikes.
Youths.
And they're riding their bikes, Brian, in circles around my car. Why? Who knows why? But they're doing this, and they're
probably high on drugs.
They probably are.
They're high on Pokemons.
They are.
They're
definitely on
drugs.
Those Pokemon. They are.
They're injecting the MTV video games.
These kids were probably like 8 or 9 years old.
Oh, sure.
And the one kid wasn't as good at riding his bike, and he would fall over, and he would use my car to support himself. And I was like, oh my God, now he's falling on my car. Are you kidding me? Right, so you know what I did?
That would piss me off.
I got the little clicky unlocking button, and I hit the alarm on it. Like, ooh, maybe they got so close that they set off the alarm. So I set off the alarm, and they biked away. And I was just watching from the window, and I was like cackling, like, "Mwah!" That's what I did. I made the children scared, and they ran away.
Take that, you Goonies!
I was totally like, who's the bad guy in the Smurfs?
Gargamel.
Gargamel. I was Gargamel with Azrael, my cat, and I was just like, I'll get you, little Smurfs. I'm gonna make my car. And then I went outside later. My car battery was dead, and I'm just like, ugh.
Oh, karma!
Talk about karma, Brian
God.
Boone. Oh boy,
we can't go riding. Sorry, Goonies, we can't go riding our bikes past Old Man Dundix's house no more.
I know. I'm such a mean old man. The book is great, and it was really fun to illustrate. I had a lot of fun. There were so many fun little pictures I got to do. The typical inside of an old person's bathroom medicine cabinet. We have a section here that's the Old Person Hall of Fame, and people that get profiled, like Soup and Old Man Fashion Show, and all the old man shoes that you see and get to wear. It's funny. It's like these funny loafers with the penny loafers. It's the old man Fred Rogers shoes. Mm-hmm. It's the Crocs. I have a pair of bright green gardening Crocs that I wear, but I'll wear them to the grocery store.
Sure. If it ain't broke, you know.
The thing about being an old person, I find, it's a state of mind, but it is a confidence in comfort. Yes. That I think everybody should do.
Comfort above all things. That's on the old people crest. And
something I have discovered is being comfortable in your shoes and your pants and your shirt is more important than looking fashionable in any way.
Honestly, I think that's something that we all learned during the pandemic is, we were all, just running out of the house all the time trying to look nice when really or we could just be comfortable because the world is awful, and why not just offer yourself a little bit of pleasure and comfort?
I discovered
staying at home
I think the old man wearing the polyester pants that we've always made fun of. I discovered a version of that pant on Amazon. It's a Dockers 360 Flex.
That's pant. What that is now. They're calling those like flex and stretch jeans and stuff. Those are old man pants.
Those are the most comfortable. I'm wearing a pair right now. I can't wear any other pant now. I'm ruined.
But they look like legitimate young person pants.
They look like young. They're tapered. They make me look great. I bought 2 more pairs that I can wear to like weddings with like a jacket and tie.
Nice.
And now my shoes, all of my shoes are these slip-on. They're kind of like the Allbirds type without laces, and they have amazing cushion.
Very chic.
I've stopped wearing regular adult clothes. I'm wearing basically larger versions of baby clothes, and they're wonderful.
But it's comfortable, and the old people are onto something. Like, as writing this book, I just got more jealous of them as it went on, because they do all these things because it's comfortable and it feels good, and yeah, I'm jealous. Like, the fact that there are now young person pants that are based on the old, clearly based on old people pants.
Clearly based on the old person pants. There's a lot of stuff in here. Lessons for life. In this book, how to be an old person, everything
really
to know
is.
For the newly old, retiring, elderly, or considering. People should go buy it. It is on Amazon. You can get an ebook. You can buy the hard copy. It's got fun illustrations. It has a bunch of empty pages in the back that are called Oopsie Remember Notes, which are places for you to make notes if you forget things, like where the remote is and things like that.
Or your name.
Use these back pages to jot down important reminders, like where you put the remote and who your current enemies are and why. It's very important.
Old people they're always mad at somebody over some slight. It's usually, well, they didn't mow their lawn on time, or she was rude to me at church, or something like that. With my parents, it's always they love Chinese food, but they're always bouncing around Chinese places because the owner was rude to them or something. There's always a slight with old people, and it's for something so minor that they would forget it. So yeah, you gotta write that stuff down.
Something happens at an establishment, and you know that something happened. You can't remember exactly what it is, but you're like, I can't go back to that coffee shop because of something happened.
Yeah,
or something happened
chain
where somebody was rude to me, but then you can't remember why they were rude to you, and probably you were the cause of the rudeness. Like, you said something
Absolutely.
shitty. Yeah.
I've seen my parents in public. They can be rude, and then then they perceive that rudeness, and then they 20 years later won't go to Safeway ever again. and they
you're like,
remember
why don't you go to Safeway? I have no idea why I can't go to Safeway anymore.
And then, like, I won't go to Safeway. I'm like, somebody else will, like, no, we can't go to Safeway. Why not? Well, because my parents told me I can't go to Safeway. Wait, why don't I go to Safeway? It's because of some imagined grudge of somebody else from, 1985.
There was an incident in the 80s. We can never go back to Safeway.
Absolutely. That is 100% true.
There was a problem at the bakery counter, and we can never return.
They get so mad at just just create drama in your life. They love gossip, and that's like a way to kind of create gossip in your own life, something to talk about at the coffee and donuts after church, because that's like old people bar is coffee and donuts after church.
One of the most accurate things on this book, on this list, well, there's many accurate things, but personally is when my mom calls and she's making small talk, and it's like, do you remember so-and-so from so-and-so? No. Well, they died.
Yeah.
They died.
They died.
So they're dead.
What a shame. It's such a shame.
And you're like, I'm very sorry. But it's always like, oh, hey, Marty, do you remember so-and-so from up the street on Stonehouse Drive with the thing? Yeah, she was nice. Nah, she's dead now.
Yeah.
I just wanted to call and tell you that. Brighten your day. Here's some news. They're dead. You're like, great, thanks.
It's always a neighbor.
Remember? It's always like, do you remember Who's-He What's-His who went to school with you? Their parents are dead.
Oh yeah, vaguely.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for telling me. I appreciate that.
Or I clipped out an obituary out of the newspaper and mailed it to you because the obituary said they went to the same high school as you, nowhere near the same time that you did. But
I just wanted to let you know.
This person
That's
is dead.
a fun thing. I was emptying out some stuff in my bookcase, and I found some stuff. And in between a bunch of books, I had some clippings that were sent to me by a grandparent from forever ago. And this was something. I had a grandparent printed out photos from an email and printed out a holiday card I had sent them from like 1999, and they printed it out and they kept it in like a photo book. And when they passed away, we were going through stuff, and she had printed out like all this stuff. And like every time I'd sent her like an e-card, You know,
She'd print it
she'd print it
out.
out and she'd like put it up, or my grandfather would like print out. If I'd like send him a photo of something, he would print out the photo and put it up. So it would be like, you know, printed like dot matrix lines on something, and
Oh,
it'd be like a
wow.
photo, and you're like, wow,
That's so
like
sweet.
I
That's so
know,
sweet. They
very
love
old
you.
person. I
They
know.
love you. My parents, we would just email them, pictures of my son when he was a baby and stuff. And you go to the photo albums at their house now, where it's like a 3-ring binder with the email printed out pictures, but in those like page protectors,
That's great. And then you think to yourself, like, what am I doing to keep things going? Like,
Yeah.
I don't have a printer that works anymore. I don't have anything. Like,
Yeah, I don't have a printer.
I have so many photos, and I have no, like, when this dies, I'm gonna have no record of my life.
Yeah.
Like, everything is hidden on this phone that's gonna all of a sudden be bricked, and then I'll have literally no memories.
Yeah.
And then all these people from the 1800s who look angry in their buttoned up, in their uncomfortable. Those are the only photos that are going to be left.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, some future civilization will think that was it. That was that was the last.
It's weird.
Thing.
There were photos up until like 1999, and then there was no more humanity. Everything just kind of disappeared.
They just
it was
stopped.
like this. It was like this analog technology they had just turned off, and everybody stopped doing anything ever again. We have no idea what happened. Because there was a gigantic, like, electronic magnetic storm. It wipes out everything. Every hard drive is wiped.
Yeah.
There's no history except for stuff that was printed out. The printer!
I think you just wrote a Black Mirror episode.
If only we had the printer! That would be great.
We only had those printers that never worked, and they never cared to make more user-friendly.
I'm out of cyan! I'm always out of magenta.
It was a race of entirely blue people.
And Gargamel's, look at all my Smurfs. This has been wonderful, Brian Boone. You're a delightful person to talk to.
Well, as are you.
Please go get Brian Boone's book, How to Be an Old Person, Everything to Know for the Newly Old, Retiring, Elderly, or Considering by Brian Boone. Also, Brian Boone has a ton of other books, trivia books, comedy books, Great Men of Science, another great book he has out now. So check out all of the Brian Boone library. You could fill up a library with Brian Boone books. Like, he's got a ridiculous amount of books.
Please do. Thank you.
They should open up a Brian Boone library and just it'd be full of trivia books and jokey books, and people can just be. That would be a great time capsule for future generations to look at.
I think that sounds like a terrific idea that thousands of people should do when they're not browsing weeklyhumorist.com, the best comedy website on the internet.
They could also thank you. Everyone go to weeklyhumorist.com, subscribe, and get online.
Absolutely the best comedy site on the internet. At least one new article every day that is just terrific. It's I read it every day. It's one of the places I go to. You check your email, you go to Twitter, and I go to Weekly Humorist.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Everyone listen to what Brian Boone has to say and go to
good content. We just want good content.
It's good content. Sometimes it's weird. Sometimes it's got some Kit stuff in there mixed in. Got some Bob Eckstein in there. Got some Brian Boone.
Got some Brian Boone in there. Got a lot of books. Okay, you guys got a lot of books now too.
Got a lot of books going. It's fun. This publishing thing is fun.
Yeah, you're good at it. You seem to have taken to it. You're good at it. Because turn out a lot of good books.
Yeah, it's fun because the big publishing houses don't do it. They don't care about the small humor books. So there's this whole niche that like no one cares about. So I'm just like, oh, no one cares about this. This is where I want to play.
Yeah, and there's a demand for that. Like, it's it can't be all spy novels you buy at the airport. Like, people want comedy books, and you and Mr. Newton are putting them out there. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. So everyone go to humorousbooks.com. Check out all the books that are coming out. Definitely buy Brian's new book. Brian, what else are you working on? What do you got coming up?
I don't know what I'm working on right now. I'm working on another novel, working on another music trivia book.
What's the novel about?
It is another comedy sci-fi thing, but geared towards younger readers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do any of your novels have TV or movie adaptation possibilities?
Great Men of Science would make a terrific FX miniseries. FX on Hulu miniseries. Yes.
Have you talked to anybody about that?
No, I haven't talked to anybody about that.
You know who you should have a meeting
with?
Who you should have a meeting with? Humorist Studios, because we do development for we bring some books. We have a couple of our books So it's kind of like a pipeline.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
Nice.
a book to TV pipeline. So I
Okay.
think that we should be talking to you about Great Men of Science.
I'm very interested in that.
Look at all the synergies that are
Ridiculously
happening here.
excited in that.
Yay, let's do stuff.
This is a brand, man. Let's do it.
Going for it. Well, that's good. Where can people follow you? It's Brian Boone with too many O's.
It's Brian Boone with 3 O's on Twitter and Brian Boone with 2 O's on Instagram.
Was there a Brian Boone on Twitter that you couldn't get rid of?
Yeah, he was a Pittsburgh bar musician who died, and I can't get the I can't get the other one, but I got a blue check mark now, so it's we'll leave it. Yeah, I got a blue check mark.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's big stuff. Definitely follow Brian Boone. He's got a blue check mark. He makes it look good and legit. Get his stuff. And thank you so much for talking today. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me. It was a blast.
Follow us at Weekly Humorist and follow us at Talkward Podcast and follow Brian Boone all over the place. Follow him in person. If you see him at the grocery store, he's going to be followed by his groupies, who are a bunch of 95-year-old Jeopardy fans. If you do see Brian Boone, make sure you keep on saying to him, James Monroe, over and over again. He'll really appreciate it.
I never been told.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Brian. We'll see you later. Bye.
Listening to Talkward. Please subscribe, follow us, and visit weeklyhumorist.com.